Namaskara, my name is Yogacharini Sangeeta Biagi and I'm delighted to be joining you today from Italy. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to my mentor and yoga acharya, Dr. Nanda Balaji Bhavanani, the director of the Institute of Salutogenesis and Complementary Medicine, and to congratulate you, sir, and to congratulate the full team at the Institute for paving the path, paving the way to bring together yoga therapy and music therapy. This is a very dear topic to me because I am extremely passionate and a researcher of NAD Yoga in the lineage of Yoga Maharishi Dr. Swami Gitananda Giri. And therefore, bridging yoga therapy and music therapy is truly at the heart of my studies as well as of my research. So today, this is the topic of my presentation, a very humble presentation that I'm delighted to share with such an esteemed group of scholars, researchers, doctors, practitioners, students, patients, and we're all here together to bring our hearts and minds together to uplift ourselves, uplift our loved ones, and also in our humble ways, uplift humanities with the results of our research. I am an artist, a vocalist. I am also a scholar of cultural and music anthropology. And as part of my titles, I'm really humbled and full of joy to be the director of studies and research of Gitananda NAD Yoga worldwide. So NAD Yoga is truly a blessing for us. It's a system of principles and practices that emerge from yoga. So one of the 6 philosophies, the Shat Darshanas of Sanatana Dharma. And it is a keen study and practice of the vibratory essence of life. NAD is often described in English, translated in English as sound, and NAD yoga as the yoga of sound. But NAD is more than sound. It includes sound as Shabda, as the Vaikari NAD, that is expressed sound. So the sound that we can hear, the sound that we can make with our instruments, the sounds that we can play with our patients. That's all a level of NAD. But there's more. There's more. There are all the sounds that we can't hear. There are all the sounds that are the vibratory sounds of beings and elements that are so small that we can't hear them, such as the subatomic. For example, the subatomic nature of reality, the quantum field of reality has its own NAD. Or, for example, very far away objects like, for example, planets, or the sound of black holes or the galaxies we can't hear. So NAD is the vibration of all that is. So everything vibrates with prana, and the sound of that, even though we may not hear it, is NAD. So what does NAD have to do with therapy? Well, everything, because if NAD is everything, then it also includes yoga therapy and music therapy. The way that Swami Gitananda Giri and Dr. Nanda Balaji Bhavanani and the team that works with Dr. Sir at the Institute, both in yoga therapy and music therapy, have put together a series of practices that are easily accessible, that involve deep listening and involve the use of sound, expressed sound, as part of the practices of NAD Yoga. NAD Yoga bridges music therapy and yoga therapy because NAD is yoga, and so it's part of yoga therapy, and also because parts of NAD, as in the Shabda NAD, so for example, certain mantras that we repeat or specific jatis, warm-up exercises, are part of sound or music therapy. So with Nada Yoga, we're truly at the crossroads of these two fields. So let's just talk very briefly about sound and its role in salutogenesis. And what does sound have to do with dis-ease, for example, or vibrations have to do with dis-ease? So salutogenesis, the birth of health, the birth of salute, of health, comes from a sense of ease, being at ease with oneself. What Dr. Nanda often to his students, including me, teaches is a sukhasthanam, a sense of ease. Now, the sense of ease with the self, of course, is cultivated from the inside out. It's not ease because life is easy. It's not ease because our desires are manifesting and all is good. Well, that's wonderful. But life is full of ups and downs. Life is our sadhana in yoga. Yoga is a way of life, as Swami Gitananda Giri teaches us. So life is just like a sound wave. It goes up, it comes down, it stalls, then it goes fast, then it goes slow. So we need to learn how to be in this flow, how to be in this nad, in this flow of life. So what happens? Why don't we do that? We know this. We know that being in the flow, flowing with life, taking life as it flows, there are all of these expressions, and yet most of us do not feel that. We feel afraid, scared, stuck. We don't really flow very much, right? Why do we do that? In the Yoga Sutra, Maharishi Patanjali begins the first of the padas, Samadhi Pada, in the second sutra, teaching us yoga has chitta vritti nirodha. So yoga is the cessation. We could also call it the quieting, the silencing of the vrittis, of the fluctuations of the mind. Swami Gitananda used to describe them as whirlpools of the mind. What are these? These are the natural fluctuations of our thinking patterns. They come in many different types, including memory and sleep, for example, not just cognition. But they definitely create a sense of agitation, movement. Now, the movement of the chitta vritti is not negative per se. It's actually good that we think. But for most of us, this fluctuation of the mind is unconscious. It's subconscious. And we end up realizing that our thoughts think us rather than we can consciously think a thought. Most people spend their days absorbed in noise, in the noise that their minds create subconsciously. So when we focus on salutogenesis or health, we are invited to first, in this particular context of NADAYOGA studies, for example, to first listen, become aware of what are these inner voices, what is happening inside, what is the sounds that I hear inside. These are not the inner sounds of the higher states of yoga, such as the 10 inner sounds, the dasha adwani, that we hear or feel in the state of dhyanam. Those are not those. Those were still at the level of noise. But before we are able to think even remotely about meditation on inner sounds and relaxation and overcoming our dis-ease through these meditations, first we need to learn how to listen to what is currently here. Listening is different than hearing, right? Because hearing is a sense that when we are able to hear with our ears or through bone conduction, happens naturally. Listening is conscious hearing. So when I listen to my inner thoughts, to allow this chitta vritti to emerge consciously, curbing it, by a process that is called in physics and chemistry entrainment. So entrainment it's not entertainment, okay? Entrainment means to catch the vibratory flow of a specific object, and to bring it along a different vibratory essence. So if instead of letting my thoughts think me, I begin to breathe evenly, with ease, allowing all of the thoughts to come to the surface, and then slowly do some practices that can allow us to release the pent-up emotions, pent-up thoughts. And then I bring in a simple contemplation or concentration on sound, such as, for example, the ajapa japa soham hamsa, the natural sound of the breath, or more complex mantra japa, such as the pranava om, for example, or the panchakshara mantra. Or for those of us who are from other traditions, it could be Ave Maria or other forms of prayer. Then slowly the sound of those mantras, the sound of those prayers will entrain the citta vritti and slowly subdue them. So in a sense, we replace the noise of the mind with a conscious choice to use this activity of the mind to focus on shabda, on a specific sound that is good for us. So we'll look at how this is good in terms of health in a moment. So here is where NADAYOGA bridges already yoga therapy and music therapy. We're working with sound, expressed sound, from the tradition of Sanatana Dharma. And we're doing this with teachings of yoga in our heart, such as, for example, the Yoga Sutra, the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, the Geranda Samhita, many scriptures, the Bhagavad Gita, many teachers that teach on the power of Anahata Nada and mantra sadhana. So in a step-by-step fashion, then we can gain a sense of relaxation and ease by quieting the mind. This is important because many of us know that there's a big difference between pain and suffering. Pain is something we experience. We experience physical pain, emotional pain, mental challenge and pain. Suffering is something that I have a choice to engage with. Okay, it's not easy to immediately choose not to lean into suffering. Suffering is the story I spin around my pain, my pain. And so it is, of course, a very delicate subject, but it is part and parcel of the theories of salutogenesis that we can be equipped with the appropriate bhava, the appropriate attitude to manage the stress that comes from our perception of pain. And this is revolutionary. It's as ancient as the teachings of Sanatana Dharma, but it's revolutionary in healthcare because it's a new conversation that we're having. And this is extremely important that these ancient traditions and the most cutting edge medical research are finally conversing. So in order for me to have an attitude of acceptance or emotional intelligence or an appropriate reaction, let's say, to suffering, I need to be fit for that attitude. At first, it's not that easy, let's be honest. When we experience pain, or even worse, when we see people we love in pain, it's very difficult to remember to separate pain from suffering. It's very difficult, and most humans are not able to do it. We are not able to do it. But with the teachings of yoga, for example, we can gain a perspective, an objective, or a more objective, let's say, perspective, and build up the faith, the strength, the shraddha, and the commitment of abhyasa, that I'm not going to give up. I'm going to continue to practice. I'm going to continue to refine my attitude. I'm going to continue to build the strength and the faith that there's a cosmic intelligence, there's a cosmic goodness in the universe that will provide for me, that I'm not alone, that we, in our family, in our community, in our country, we are not alone. We are going to be able to survive and to thrive this experience and more experiences as long as we are together. Now, this is a social choice. It's a social attitude. This we need to cultivate. It's not innate. What's innate is our fear of death. This is one of the 5 kleshas, the Abhinivesha kleshas. This is what it's innate. What's innate is fear, desperation, sloth, the enemies of the spirit, the antarayas. These are innate. But the sukha bhavam, a choice to be uplifting the self by the self, the choice to show up, the choice to remain positive in our attitude, these are all cultivations of the self. These are not innate. And we need, if we have them, more, if we're more prone to have them, great. Then we should be sharing with other people more. If we don't have them, we need to certainly foster them. And we foster them with some very practical exercises and practices that I would like to share with you. What I would like to share with you in the context of today's presentation, it's a model codified by Yoga Maharishi Dr. Swami Gitananda Giri, and it's a 4-fold relaxation. The reason I chose relaxation for this presentation is that I saw some of our colleagues here already decided to focus on relaxation. Why? Because one of the most detrimental experiences for our health is stress. And there's a lot of stress everywhere in the world. There's stress due to poverty, there's stress due to climate change, there's stress due to the pandemic, to wars, to famines, to abuse, to trauma of all types, and there's stress due to wealth, there's stress due to overhaving, overachieving, the surplus of abundance of specific cultures or subcultures. And so stressors are everywhere, and the natural and the best contribution that we can all bring to this level of stress everywhere is relaxation. This is what Yogacharya Dr. Nanda Balayogi Bhavanani has been teaching me and many students and colleagues around the world, that yoga's gem contribution right now to the field of health, healthcare, yoga therapy, yoga chikitsa, salutogenesis is relaxation, among others. And so Swami Gitananda, I would like to read, if you don't mind, I would like to read directly from Swamiji's words. He has created a teaching called the 4-fold relaxation. And there are 4 specific steps that he teaches us. And while teaching a course on Gitananda NADAYOGA with my Guruji, Dr. Nanda, this application of NADAYOGA to this 4-layered process of relaxation naturally arose. And so I would like to first read Swamiji's teachings and then guide us in a practical application of a few NADAYOGA practices, also from the lineage of Swami Gitananda, of course, to help us, our colleagues, our family members, our patients, gain a sense of ease and relaxation in a fairly succinct time, which is, always useful because therapists, doctors, nurses, administrators also have their fair amount of stress. And so if we can share these practices also among the practitioners in a way that is accessible and not immensely time consuming, like a lifelong sadhana, for example, which we all embark on in this conference for sure. So that would be, we thought, a good contribution to the conference. So in the Yoga Step by Step, a correspondence course that Swami Gitananda composed, he writes in lesson 29, the yoga system views the need for relaxation and its solution in 4 ways. Letting down. This letting down is to deal with one's barriers to the needed advice and help, to let down one's prejudice and preconceived ideas and notions about people, things, ideas, let down all of the false notions and materialistic idolatry that we have built up in modern living, and to let down from the god of tension, in quote, which is virtually deified in so-called civilized societies. Okay, then he continues on, and he ends this part with, cultivate the desire for right action when action is called for. So this is also part of letting down. So as I let down the preconceived ideas and I let down my hang-ups and let down my, I then cultivate with the energy of that, I can cultivate the desire for right action. Okay. The second step is giving up. One has to want to give up the stresses and strains that beset them. This does not mean a surrender or a defeat, as popularly suggested by the English term to give up. This giving up is to throw off any weaknesses which tend to build up to tension. Okay, so we give up the weaknesses. We don't give up to life. We don't give up life or our desire to be well. We give up the weaknesses which tend to build up to tension. Okay, so it's a positive process. The third step is giving in. So letting down, giving up, giving in. To give in the yoga concept of relaxation is to give in to the dictates of the inner mind, the higher consciousness. So rather than giving in to the chitta vritti or the noise, the fears, the anxieties, we let them go, and instead we give in to the buddhi, the higher mind, which we cannot hear unless we throw off the vrittis. Okay? Again, this is a positive process and is not the giving in of surrender. There's no abdication. One has to take up an inner life and a study of the inner life to understand what it really means. In the beginning, this is an intellectual process, but it must move beyond the intellect to even a more positive, a more transcendental state. So it's not for self-gratification, but it's to overcome this sense of I, my, mine. Lastly, giving over. Giving over of the control of the higher mind self. So giving over of the control of the higher mind to the higher self, So giving over of the control of the higher mind, even that higher mind the control has to be given over to a higher self. Ishvara Pranidhana. And this is the last stage where the highest attainments of relaxation are achieved. when one can merge into super conscious higher states. No words can describe it. The peak of fulfillment. Just even reading it makes me happy. Why? So you can see this is a step-by-step process that has 4 layers, from becoming aware of the grossest vibrations of the chittavritti, of this ego construction. Me, this is what I think, this is what I want, this is who I am, I should have this, you should give me that. It's all based on the construction of personality. So in the letting down, we are going to breathe in and out for just a couple of minutes. So we become aware of all these ego constructions that are healthy, they are helpful, but they need to be let down at some point to achieve a certain level of relaxation. Otherwise, the I self, the ego self, will always want something different because it's filled and moved by desire, okay? Even for spiritual practice. Okay, so we're going to do some Sukha Pranayama in a moment. Then there's a giving up. In the giving up, we are going to use what in NAD yoga practices is called the Nasarga Mukha Bhastrika. We are going to take in some of those vrittis that had come up earlier in the letting down process and throw them out. We're going to inhale through the nose and whoosh them out the mouth. The giving in of into the higher consciousness is a vibratory experience because the higher consciousness is NAD, is vibratory. Everything that we perceive is a vibratory form. And so to give into the higher aspects of NAD is to listen to the sounds, start from the grossest vibration of listening to the sounds in the room, listen to the sounds of the heart and of the breath, and then slowly going into the sounds of the inner life, which are very, very subtle. And then lastly, giving over to the higher self, we are going to intone and invoke 3 japas of the pranava mantra Om. Okay, so we're going to do this in a shortened version. The full sadhana is shared by us on several videos. If you're interested, we can provide those for you. But just for the sake of the conference now, we will just use our last few minutes together to bring it all together. So to bring together how NAD yoga can bridge yoga therapy and music therapy with these 4 specific practices to achieve relaxation the yogic way. So take a moment to close your eyes and take a deep breath in. And for the letting down, we're just going to listen to any thoughts that you may have rising now, or any impulses, any projections on what you need to do later, or maybe you're holding on to a memory from earlier today or yesterday or last month. We're going to inhale and exhale on equal counts. So you may choose your count, whether it's 4 inhalation, 4 exhalation, or 6 by 6. As you regulate your breath, notice, witness your mind, your subconscious, unconscious mind, becoming conscious by bringing it to your awareness and either visualizing or listening to your thoughts without becoming identified with them, just observing. Now you may also have been thinking a lot about something over the last few days or month. So we're going to begin to shake our hands, shake the head, and we're going to move into the giving up. We're going to give up our worries. We're going to give up our stress. We're going to give it up, our attachment to it. our propensity to constantly think about it. So not the pain, not the challenge, but the suffering we attach to it. Okay, ready? We're gonna inhale, release. Do this 2 more times. And relax. We're slowly going to now giving into the higher consciousness. So we connect with the sound of the heart. We know that the higher consciousness of Nad, Anhat Nad, is in the space of Hridaya, of the heart. Not so much the physical heart, but also the physical heart is part of that psychic heart, Anahat Nad, Anahat chakra. So listen to the heart, the miracle of this drum, a very primordial form of Shabda is here. And then naturally listen to the inner sounds of your breath. So you don't have to make a sonic breath. You just notice the relationship between the heartbeat and the breath patterns. And begin to truly relax yourself as you listen. The practice of Shabda Pratyahara that Swamiji has codified requires a good half-hour practice together. So I'm just going to give you a very, very abbreviated form where immediately we're going to listen to all of the sonic landscape all around you, from the closest to the furthest, without grasping, like any Pratyahara. Try not to grasp sounds, just become aware of the sounds as they arise. Continue breathing evenly, just like you did in the previous step. Notice the relationship between breathing slowly and listening deeply. Natural sounds may be constant, like the buzzing of electricity, or coming and going, like cars in traffic or birds. Try to listen as far as you can, without grasping. And then slowly come back to the sound of the breath and the sound of the heart inside of you. And then bring your concentration, bring this beautiful concentration to the area of Brumadhya Bindu, between your brows. And keep your listening skill, your listening quality under the control of the mind in this Bindu, as you continue breathing evenly and slowly. And from here, we're going to bring our hands together in the Namaskara Mudra, and we're going to intone 3 japas of the Pranava Om. Aum. Making sure that we truly honor the mantra of mantras by opening our mouth in the Gatro A, and then closing the mouth naturally, giving all of the harmonics of the voice that are present in this mantra. Ending with a nasal M, and then bringing the top of the tongue, the tip of the tongue between the soft and the hard palate to allow the last resonance of the mantra Om to be cerebral, so to make the full skull vibrate. Okay? Exhale. Inhale. Relax and just observe yourself. And then you can move the fingers of your hands, wrap your hands together, place the palm of the hands over your eyes. Remove the palms from your eyes and come back. So I would like to thank you all so much. And again, these practices, each one of them contains a full teaching, and there's so much that can be said on the effects of humming on our physiological bodies as well as the emotional body. Practice it and feel it for yourself, and then share it with others, breathing slowly and evenly, connecting the self to a higher sense of self, letting go of the stressors, reflecting on our attachment to the concept of suffering, and intoning prayers, mantras are all so beneficial, and they bridge science and spirituality. So hopefully this will invite you to read more of the research of the Institute of Salutogenesis and Complementary Medicine on the effects of pranava, pranayama, of mantra chanting, of music therapy, on yoga therapy, and continue having these conversations. Thank you all so much. Many greetings from Italy and best wishes to everyone for a continuation of this marvelous event and conference. Namaskaram.